What if everything you thought you knew about Cleopatra was wrong? Beyond the scandalous love affairs lies a strategic genius whose political maneuvers and intellectual might shaped an empire. Prepare to see Cleopatra not as a seductress, but as a formidable leader whose legacy continues to challenge our perceptions of power. She was history's most famous queen, yet her true story had been buried beneath 2,000 years of scandal, myth, and outright lies. Forget the Hollywood virgin, forget the seductress. The real Cleopatra was a genius, a warrior of the mind, a political mastermind who outplayed Rome's greatest men at their own game. This is the untold story of Cleopatra, not just as Caesar's lover, but as the last pharaoh of Egypt and one of the most brilliant leaders the world has ever known. But to understand her meteoric rise, we must first understand the powder keg she was born into. The golden sands of Egypt had witnessed countless rulers come and go, but none would leave a mark as indelible as the young princess, born in 69 BC in Alexandria, the jewel of the ancient world. From the towering heights of the Pharaoh's lighthouse to the bustling docks where Roman warships loomed, Cleopatra took her first breath into a kingdom caught in the grip of decline. Egypt was no longer the mighty land of the pharaohs. Instead, it was a kingdom shackled to the whims of Rome, ruled by the Ptolemaic dynasty, a line of Greek rulers who held the throne for nearly 300 years. But by Cleopatra's birth, the Ptolemies had become mere shadows of their former selves. The reign was marred by corruption, internal strife, and constant pressure from Rome's expanding power. The treasury was drained, the populace hungry, and the royal court a nest of vipers. Her father, Ptolemy XII, mockingly dubbed the flute player for his preference of music over statecraft, was a weak king who bowed repeatedly to Rome's demands. Egypt had become little more than a source of tribute to satisfy Roman greed. Cleopatra grew up watching her father grovel before Roman senators, learning early on that royal blood alone would not secure survival. It demanded cunning, intelligence, and a willingness to play the dangerous games of power. While her siblings indulged in palace luxuries and court intrigues, Cleopatra immersed herself in the great library of Alexandria, the last bastion of ancient knowledge. She mastered the arts of philosophy, languages, military tactics, astronomy, and even toxicology, the deadly science of poisons. At 17, Cleopatra was thrust into a kingdom rife with chaos and conspiracies. She ascended the throne as co-ruler alongside her 10-year-old brother, Ptolemy XIII, a marriage of convenience. But this was no ceremonial position. She immediately began implementing radical reforms. While ancient sources focus on her love life, papyrus records reveal her first act was reforming Egypt's tax system, increasing revenue while reducing burdens on farmers. She rebuilt Egypt's navy using revolutionary ship designs that would later influence Roman vessels. She was fluent in 9 languages. Unlike her Greek-speaking predecessors, she became the first Ptolemy to fluently speak Egyptian, earning the priesthood's loyalty. But ruling Egypt was never meant to be a shared affair. The court was divided, and powerful factions, led by the eunuch Pothinus, sought to undermine her authority. She was soon betrayed and forced to flee Alexandria with only a handful of loyal supporters. Exile would have broken lesser queens, but Cleopatra was no ordinary ruler. From her refuge in Syria, she began assembling mercenaries, forging alliances, and carefully preparing for her return. She understood the stakes. Egypt's independence teetered on the edge, and the storm brewing in Rome would soon reach her doorstep. That storm came with the arrival of Pompey the Great, Rome's once mighty general. Defeated and desperate, fleeing Julius Caesar's victorious legions, Pompey sought refuge in Egypt, hoping the Ptolemies would grant him sanctuary. Instead, Cleopatra's brother's advisors saw an opportunity for favor with Caesar. They murdered Pompey, presenting his severed head as a gruesome gift. But Julius Caesar was not pleased. He mourned Pompey's death, famously weeping over the broken seal ring of his former ally. It was a misstep that plunged Egypt into deeper turmoil and set the stage for Cleopatra's daring gambit. Knowing she could never match Caesar's army, Cleopatra devised a plan so audacious it would become legend. Smuggled into the royal palace, she was rolled inside a carpet, or as some sources say, a linen sack, delivered as a gift to Caesar. When the bundle was unrolled, the Roman general found himself face to face with a queen who did not plead or beg, but spoke with confidence and intelligence. This was no mere seduction. Cleopatra's arrival was a calculated stroke of psychological genius. Alone, unarmed, she showed vulnerability that appealed to Caesar's ego, while simultaneously proving her cunning and the strength of her networks. That night in Alexandria wasn't about romance, it was about strategy. Cleopatra unfurled a map detailing Egypt's vast grain store, vital to Rome's legions. She outlined her rebuilt navy, innovative ship designs that rivaled Rome's own fleets, and the potential of a powerful alliance. Caesar, embroiled in civil war, recognized the value. Egypt's wealth could fund his campaigns, and Cleopatra's intelligence could secure his eastern flank. Their alliance was cemented not just by passion, but by political necessity. Caesar delayed his departure from Egypt for months, according to his own writings, not for love, but to ensure the grain supply for his legions. Cleopatra's pregnancy was precisely timed. When she gave birth to Caesarion, Caesar's acknowledgement of their son was an unspoken admission of the political power she wielded. Cleopatra's influence stretched far beyond Alexandria. When she followed Caesar to Rome in 46 BC, she arrived not as a mistress, but as a sovereign monarch, living in Caesar's villa across the Tiber. She conducted diplomacy and advised in Eastern affairs. It was she who introduced Egyptian astronomy to Rome, contributing significantly to Caesar's reform of the calendar. The Julian calendar is still in use today, but the Romans were wary. The Senate panicked at the presence of a foreign queen wielding such influence. The Roman populace, fueled by rumor and prejudice, nicknamed her the Temptress Queen. Yet Cleopatra won hearts by distributing Egyptian grain during a famine, earning the gratitude of the starving masses. Even Cicero, Caesar's staunch political enemy and outspoken critic of Cleopatra, admitted in private letters that she knew the value of every Roman coin in the treasury, a testament to her savvy and understanding of finance. When Caesar was assassinated on the Ides of March in 44 BC, Cleopatra's world shifted once more. She didn't flee in grief, but acted swiftly, destroying correspondence and securing transport to return to Egypt. The game had changed, but it was far from over. Rome's power struggle after Caesar's death was fierce. On one side stood Octavian, Caesar's heir and future Augustus. On the other, Mark Antony, a charismatic and ruthless general. Cleopatra knew that her kingdom's survival depended on backing the right man. When Antony summoned her to Tarsus, she did not arrive as a supplicant, but as a goddess incarnate. Her golden barge, with sails dyed a regal purple and perfumed with incense, glided through the harbor like the divine Isis herself. Antony, a man who loved spectacle and power, was captivated, and the relationship began. By 40 BCE, Cleopatra gave birth to twins, Alexander Helios and Cleopatra Selene II. The relationship was far more than romance. Cleopatra was a partner in power. She funded Antony's military campaigns, provided intelligence on Parthian territories, and in return, Antony granted her lands that had once been Egyptian. Modern historians have uncovered crucial details in Plutarch's accounts. Cleopatra made Antony wait 3 days before granting him an audience, asserting dominance. Their famous drunken parties were in reality high-stakes intelligence gatherings. Antony's disastrous decisions after Cleopatra's temporary absence to Egypt to secure her political position in Alexandria revealed his dependence on her counsel. The Battle of Actium in in 31 BC was the climax of a world-changing power struggle. Antony's forces faltered against Octavian's navy. Cleopatra's fleet, carrying the hopes of Egypt, retreated in disarray. Back in Alexandria, their final stand was desperate. False news of Cleopatra's death reached Antony, shattering him. He fell on his sword, leaving Cleopatra alone to face the inevitable. Rather than become a Roman trophy paraded through the streets, Cleopatra chose her own fate. Legend tells of the asp's fatal bite, but modern scholars suggest her death was a political act, a symbol of defiance in the face of subjugation. Rome annexed Egypt as a province, but Cleopatra's story did not end in defeat. Her legacy grew through the centuries, inspiring artists, playwrights, and leaders. She was not just a seductress, she was a scholar who preserved knowledge, a strategist who negotiated peace with Judean kings, and a diplomat whose networks kept the ancient texts of the Library of Alexandria alive long after its destruction. Her daughter, Cleopatra Selene, would become a queen in her own right, carrying her mother's spirit forward. From Elizabeth I to Angela Merkel, great female leaders have studied Cleopatra's statecraft, and today, archaeologists uncover new clues that continue to rewrite her story. They said Cleopatra destroyed Egypt. The truth is she prolonged its independence against impossible odds, not through beauty, but brilliance. She was history's most understood queen, and now her real story is finally told. Watch the next video for more ancient stories and let us know in the comments below which historical figure you'd like us to unravel next.